Hey everybody, it's Carson Gourdie from Fox, Illinois, the Champaign Sports Anchor. I am here with KAKE Sports Director Michaela Day. She helps cover the Kansas Jayhawk football program. I thought she'd be a great person to bring on. Completely excited about this game. Usually when you talk about Illinois and Kansas, we're talking about a big basketball game. Michaela, the table's kind of turned. They might have some pretty good football teams this year.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool that it's the last of the home and home series. I know KU for sure is excited that they've won two straight already over Illinois. But kind of as you mentioned a little bit beforehand, that it's nice that the Fighting Illini have this one circled because KU, I mean, I'm sure as you've seen the progress that they've made over the past couple of years since bringing Lance Leipold in has been incredible. I mean, obviously making headlines nationwide, and they've just steadily gotten better the last two seasons. So, yeah, a lot of people are not overlooking KU anymore, which that was the case for so many years. The Jayhawks have that pride within themselves now. We got a healthy Jalen Daniels, at least for now. I know a lot of people are not wanting to jinx that because it's his first, hopefully, full season that he does play for the Hawks. But he's looking great. So yeah, it should be a big matchup, and I'm excited that it was a sellout for that in Champaign. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, hopefully the kids stay past halftime. Usually they leave at halftime and go to the bars. But I mean, this
Right.
should be a very good, high-scoring game. People that know college football know that Lance Leipold is one of the best coaches in the country. He was a dominant Division III coach, rebuilt Buffalo. Fun fact, he was actually a finalist for the Illinois job, but ended up taking Brett Bielema. So sometimes you think Lance probably could have done pretty good at Illinois too. But even though you guys lost your offensive coordinator to Penn State, it doesn't seem like you guys are going to take that big of a step back. I mean, Daniels is healthy, and I mean, Devin Neal is an extremely underrated running back.
Right. Yeah. Devin Neal, and then you have Daniel Highshaw Jr. as well back in that backfield. They've always been a 1-2 punch. And they were incredible for the Hawks last year. Now, it's kind of cool to see not only do you have Jalen Daniels, but you have a great ground game for him to and for the Hawks to rely on if let's just say Jalen doesn't have a good game, which as we know, statistically, when he is in, he always has an explosive game and completes 60-70% of his passes, and is able to make those explosive plays with the tight ends and the receivers that he does have. But yeah, to see Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw Jr. just dominate that backfield too is really good for the Hawks, and it's really great to see.
Just with Daniels, 2 years ago, he was incredible. He's the guy that brought back Kansas into a bowl. Last year, he did suffer some injury issues. What's kind of the vibe coming into this year? Is he 100%, or is he still going to maybe have some up and downs with his injuries? Because when he's healthy, he's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, right now he is 100%. But it's a back injury, and it's one of those injuries that it's hard to predict, and it's something that you don't visually see. You don't see a guy on crutches, you don't see the brace, and so a lot of people kind of don't understand. I feel like that back injury is, at least the research that I've done and talking with him and then talking with the team and coach, that it's a lot harder mentally because you don't see it, and because it could be just you know dwindled down to back tightness. A lot of people think, oh, just stretch it out, just do some movements. But no, it's really taken a hit on him in this last year. Now, he, of course, did all that work extensively in the off season to be ready, to be good to go. And from what we've seen so far, he is good. Now, of course, their first game against Lindenwood, a former like D2 team, of course, it was a great showing. Now, that's why this one for the Hawks as well will be a big test to see if Jalen can compete against a big Big Ten team on the road. So I do know a lot of people will be watching this one. They've circled this one just for the fact to see if Jalen can compete against, a top team like that. Because yeah, it's hard to deal with an injury like that. And he had so much confidence going into the season last year when he was preseason Big 12 player of the preseason. So yeah, I've seen his confidence kind of dwindle a little bit. Doesn't mean that his priorities aren't straight, but with any player dealing with injury in this sport, as we know, it takes a hit on you. So yeah, I know that everyone is excited to see how he will perform against the Fighting Illini.
And definitely, like, Illinois last week played Eastern Illinois. Like, I don't care if you're the
Yeah,
FCS team. The reality is these Big 12 schools, these Big 12 schools, I mean, you're as fast, you're stronger, you're going to win the game. Like, you beat Eastern Illinois 45-0, or Lindenwood by 45. you shouldn't book your ticket to the college football playoff. For
Yeah.
Illinois, the big unknown is last year they had a really good defensive line with these two NFL linemen. They had Keith Randolph and Johnny Newton. They're gone. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest question mark with Illinois is, can this defensive line stop a phenomenal running game with Kansas? Is Kansas going to be run first this game, do you think?
I do think so. We did see that a lot, obviously, in their season opener last week with Lindenwood. But I wouldn't knock out the receiving game too, and especially, the receivers that have come back, they're great too. Luke Grimm, and you got the tight end room as well. But I do think that they will show out that ground game because they just have it, and why not with those top running backs that they do have. But speaking of the defense too, KU lost Austin Booker to the NFL draft. He's now playing for the Chicago Bears. The KU defense is explosive, especially in the secondary. You got Kobe Bryant, you got Mello Dotson. He had an interception last week versus Lindenwood. So the secondary, no one's really worried about, I will say, for KU, but that front seven, at least for KU too, it's a little bit different story this year, and they've been trying to rebuild that defense a little bit. There's kind of that similar story, I would say, on KU's side.
And that's what, people always think about Big 12 schools, or Lance is always offense first. Is this defense ready to take the next step to make that Kansas program 6 to 8 wins to maybe get 10 wins? Do you think the defense has the juice this year?
I do think so. And like you just said with Lance, it all starts with Lance and it trickles down. And going back to the beginning, I love to touch on Lance Leipold because the inspiration that he's instilled in this program and the community, I mean, that takes a lot to do. And they're rebuilding a whole new, as you know, home stadium this year. So they're playing at Children's Mercy Park, a soccer stadium, for 2 games, and then Arrowhead Stadium for their next home games throughout the season. So for him to not only come in here and inspire the community, inspire them to donate to create a whole new home stadium, but then also talk to these players and bring in top talent and think about the longevity of the program. And it was funny when a lot of us media members saw that he was potentially rumored to be hired elsewhere. A lot of us media members, at least initially, we didn't believe in that. We shot that down because we're like, he's a guy that when he commits, he commits. He's going to stay here for a good 10, 20 years. Like, he's just that guy. So speaking of just the defense and as well as the offense, are they going to carry the team this year and be a top team in the Big 12? Yes. And I will say that as well, too, because their conference schedule, statistically looking at it compared to other teams in the Big 12 or the Big 16, whatever you want to call it, with how many teams are in this league now, I'm not going to say they have it easy, but they have it rather easy compared to other teams in the Big 12. Of course, the big one circled for KU is K-State, the Sunflower Showdown, a fellow top 25 team. But KU, they're going to ride high this year. I think they should at least not get 9 wins. Hopefully that 10 wins, because when they got 9 wins last season, that was their first winning season in 10 years. So hopefully they can keep on tacking them more.
For Illinois, 2022, that was the breakout year for Illinois. They went 8-5. It was their best year in a long time. 2023 was supposed to be like, okay, we're going to go to the Big Ten championship. It's an easy schedule. We got Johnny Newton back. They stumbled to 5-7. And the first game that was the huge red flag for everybody was that Kansas game. I mean, Kansas just dominated Illinois last year. I mean, it was 34-7 at one point. When we're around the locker room this week, it seems like this game's circled. People know how they felt last year, and they don't want that to happen again. So Illinois, it seems like they're ready to go. How do you kind of view Kansas with this game? What have they kind of said about Illinois? Do you think there is an emphasis on them? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I don't think they're overlooking Illinois. Not that they did in the past, but with the interviews that I've combed through and seen, especially Lance Leipold, he gave credit where credit's due with Illinois, and the players know not to overlook them. Now, I know that's a cliche in sports, but like I said, with how much is weighing on this game with Jalen Daniels, with the Hawks proving themselves this season, it's going to be they're going to show out for sure. So it's nice to hear that Illinois is treating it the same way. Now, it's a matter of, can KU back up their talk, or can the Hawks actually prove that they're one to beat or one to beat other people on the road. So yeah, it's a big season for the Hawks. So fingers crossed that they do well. But hey, I mean, at least hopefully Illinois, everyone would like to see a good game. Last year, as you said, it was, KU has won two straight. But I think it also plays into the fact, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people used to still overlook KU. That's not the case anymore. I think even last season they were like, oh, maybe not the case anymore. So yeah, this will be a big one.
I mean, when you just look at Kansas, like you think of coaches like Charlie Weiss, Les Miles, like they kept hiring like these fired coaches that weren't working. I credit to Kansas that they finally took the proven head coach, that knows how to develop the Jalen Daniels and take him to the next level. The guy that can run a steady program, the guy that doesn't overlook the games. And for Illinois, I guess, you hired the proven Brett Bielema, who did win at Wisconsin. I know Arkansas was a struggle. But I mean, these are two programs that have had really tough times since 1994. And I think we can both say it feels nice to cover a program where the fans actually care, where there's actually a competitive football game. Because there's nothing worse than going into a game and knowing you're going to lose 56-0 right away. So, I mean, for Kansas to go from the worst program for 10 years to, I mean, this team could legitimately make a college football playoff. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. And I just keep on thinking about the fact, as we both grew up, again, that's how we viewed Kansas. They were never one to win, never one to circle on the calendar. So I'm all for these storylines and for teams to have these big turnarounds. And I will say, going back to mentioning K-State as well, Kansas State, it's really cool for the state of Kansas to have two teams in the Big 12, both in the top 25 so far. Both have their own great storylines and both are predicted to go far into the postseason. I mean, and I was covering K-State 2 years ago when they went to the Sugar Bowl. And so K-State perennially has been better than KU, but to work in a state, then to have a rival team come up as well. A lot of talk has been on this season that this is the first season in decades where you have K-State and KU both good, both in the preseason top 25, or both in the AP top 25 in the preseason. Now in the week one, still they're slowly climbing up the ranks. Yeah, it's a fun time for sure. And just hopefully they can back it up. That's what I keep on saying, which both teams do have the talent, and especially KU. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are just still worried about that back, and rightfully so. But they have a good backup quarterback, Cole Ballard. He played a lot last season. Of course, not as much as Jason Bean did, but they have options too there. So I think with the way things went down last season, they've been more than prepared this season for anything. So that's kind of cool to see too with the Hawks.
Awesome. Let's head in Saturday night, 6:00. It's actually gonna be chillier weather. I mean, last week in Champaign, it was like 90 degrees. I wore jeans covering the game. The worst mistake I've ever made. It felt like it was 110 degrees. But just with this game, it opened up at 6.5 points. It's dropped down to 5 at this point. If you look at the Vegas line, they're kind of predicting like a 31-25 kind of score. What do you kind of see in store for Saturday? Are we going to see a shootout, a defensive battle? What are you expecting?
I think definitely a shootout. I think definitely a high scoring affair. Not knocking either defenses, but as we know, more talk is on the offense here. So I definitely think that Vegas kind of has the right mindset, which they normally do. Now KU's favored, right? You said 5 or 6?
5 points right now.
Yeah, 5 points. So I'm curious about that. I don't know. I mean, yes, Illinois has proven it themselves and they are a little bit better, but I mean, not just because I cover KU, but KU's just really talented this year. But hey, I think there's just a lot of questions and unknown, like I mentioned with Jalen. So that's probably why it's a little bit closer. But yeah, I think it'll be a high scoring affair. How about you?
I think we're going to see a shootout. I mean, if you look at Illinois, their last 6 games last year, the offense picked it up. They started scoring over 30 points per game. It was the defense that kind of took a step back. That's what kind of kept Illinois out of back-to-back bowl games. And I think Brett Bielema did a good job of adding some key transfers, like Torrey Cox to the secondary, and they added Terrence Brooks from Texas to the secondary, and they brought back some good linebackers. But the reality is you lost 2 NFL defensive linemen, and you brought in, a 7th-year transfer from Florida State who didn't play too often. You moved a linebacker, Ezekiel Holmes, to the defensive line. T-Rod Edwards, he's a good player, just it is hard. You can't just go to the transfer portal unless you want to spend $3 million and get a defense line. So just Illinois, most likely that's going to take a step back. So this game is going to have a lot of challenges because, everybody talks about Jalen Daniels. He was incredible, but even last year they won 9 games, and he only played three of them. Devin Neal is a guy that can get to that second level. So I think Illinois is going to give up points, but I do think that Illinois did a good job in the transfer portal on the offensive side. I thought they got a good wide receiver with Jakari Franklin. He's from UTSA and Ole Miss. He has the most catches active in college football. He's been around for 8 years. He's been around forever. I think Luke Allmeyer is a good dual threat guy. It's going to be important for him to play clean because he threw 2 picks against Kansas last year. And that pretty much ended the game right there. I don't bet. It's one of the vices I don't have. I don't gamble. So I'm not going to try to predict the line that's going on. But I am confident in saying I think Illinois does have a good offense. I do think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be incredibly entertaining. If just from an Illinois perspective, this is one of the most important games in recent school history. You want the fans to keep coming. You get blown out against Kansas, they're not going to be showing up next week, the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So it's going to be big for Brett Bielema. And, if Kansas wants to break through and make that playoff, they're going to have to win it too. So 100% I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. And also Altmaier, he's a dual threat quarterback.
Yep.
So kind of a battle of 2 QBs that are dual threat that can not only run with their legs, but have, big plays with their arms. So yeah, it'll be an exciting one. And I mean, I feel like everyone loves high scoring affairs. Obviously, we appreciate the defense. We love the battle in the trenches, but this one, as we know, it's going to be a lot of TDs for sure. Now, I will say, going back to Mello Dotson and Kobe Bryant, that secondary, careful for these picks and interceptions. I feel like obviously a lot of attention does get placed on Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw Jr., which rightfully so on the offense. But, both of them were awarded with some preseason honors still. And I'm sure with this season, they're going to definitely show out even more. They're scary in that back there. So yeah, they might come out with a pick or 2. You never know. Maybe a pick 6. That'll be fun.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just joking around. But hey, I just want to say thanks for coming on. Should be an exciting game, Michaela. Anything else you want to add about the game?
No, I mean, just I wish I could go out there. It'd be great I love seeing the environment, and I haven't been to Illinois. Well, I've been to the state, but I haven't been to the university. So haven't seen it in person. I'm sad I'm missing a sellout crowd because I love a good sellout crowd. But yeah, definitely soak it in. And thanks for having me. And I would say go Hawks, but I'm unbiased. I'm a journalist as well. So, and I also don't gamble because that would be tough in this business. But have fun out there. And yeah, I'm excited for a good game.
All right, awesome. That's going to wrap it up. Michaela Day of KAKE and Carson Gourdie of Fox, Illinois. Hope you enjoyed a little pregame show.
Thanks for watching. Stick around by subscribing today and don't miss a single video.